I made a comment under my breath about her butt, and she heard me. Did I say that out loud? Rachael had learned to survive the open-plan office by cultivating a monk-like focus and a carefully neutral face. Neither survived when Katy slid past her desk in high-waisted trousers that did frankly indecent things to gravity. Rachael's spreadsheet turned into abstract art. Her heartbeat tried to be a drumline. She took a breath, turned back to her monitor, and, betraying every vow she'd ever made to professionalism, muttered, "That but should be illegal." "Excuse me?" Katy said, stopping. Rachael's soul, her entire soul, performed a nosedive through the office floor and rolled under the copy machine. "Oh, she gestured at her screen like it was responsible for everything. Formatting. Illegal formatting." Katy blinked. Then, incredibly, one corner of her mouth dared to smirk. "Illegal formatting," she repeated, hands landing on her hips. The trousers, complicit, emphasized the crime scene. "Is that the technical term?" Rachael considered fleeing to Belize. "Yes," she said. "A felony, really." From the far end of the room, Trevor coughed. Keys clicked. Slack purred. The office hummed obliviously while time stretched taut between them. Katy leaned a little closer, her perfume clean and citrusy, like a good decision Rachael had never made. "Well," Katy said softly, "I'd hate to see you arrested." She walked on, leaving Rachael kneecap-deep in adrenaline and mortification. Her brain replayed the moment in high definition, the smirk, the voice, the impossible calm. For months, Rachael's crush had been a delicately folded paper crane, private, ornamental, safely perched on a shelf. Now it flapped drunkenly around the room knocking over plants. At lunch, she hid behind a succulent in the break area and messaged her group chat, "I have committed HR with my mouth." Maya texted back, "Finally." Julia, define committed. Rachael, I commented on Katy's assets. She heard. Maya, did she look horrified or interested? Rachael, how do you tell the difference between a smirk that means lawsuit and a smirk that means coffee? Julia, the former involves witnesses. The latter involves eye contact. Which did you get? Rachael, eye contact. The microwave beeped. Rachael nearly launched her sad leftovers into orbit. She turned, and there was Katy at the doorway, holding 2 cans of sparkling water like a peace offering or evidence. Truce? Katy asked, lifting one. Truce, Rachael said, and took it. Their fingers brushed. Something zipped beneath Rachael's skin, bright and electric, and Katy saw it. Rachael could tell from the way her eyes widened, just a fraction, like recognition. So, Katy said, casual as that smirk, tell me more about these formatting crimes. Rachael cracked open the can with too much force. The hiss was loud enough to be mistaken for a fire alarm. Formatting crimes, she echoed, stalling. You know. The, spacing between columns, unjustified alignment, dangerous curves. Katy's eyebrow arched in a way that said she'd noticed the last part. Dangerous curves, she repeated, taking a sip of her water. Her lips left condensation on the rim. Sounds like you should be in data protection, not marketing. I prefer to live dangerously, Rachael said, then nearly kicked herself under the table. Smooth, Rach. Why not just ask her to marry you while you're at it? Katy leaned against the counter, crossing her arms. Rachael's brain helpfully narrated, arms, toned, forearms, veins, stop it, stop it. I didn't know you had such a colorful vocabulary for spreadsheets, Katy said. Rachael fumbled her fork, clattering it into her Tupperware. I'm a poet, she said flatly. Uh-huh. Katy smiled into her can, which felt like watching someone smile into your very bones. So, what else do you write poetry about? The break room door squeaked open. A coworker shuffled in, rooting around the fridge. Saved by divine intervention, Rachael stuffed half a cold ravioli in her mouth and chewed like it was her alibi. Katy, unbothered, glanced at her watch. Team meeting in 5, she said, then, this couldn't be real, winked. When Katy left, Rachel's group chat detonated again. Rachael, she winked. Maya, winked, or like, eyelash twitch. Julia, scale of 1 to 10, how gay was it? Rachael, at least an 11. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of charts and meaningless buzzwords. Rachel's mind was elsewhere, trapped in orbit around a single moment, the way Katy had leaned in, the way her eyes had lit up, that impossible wink. After work, Rachael lingered at her desk pretending to organize files while everyone else filtered out. She told herself she wasn't waiting, except Katy reappeared, slinging her bag over her shoulder. "You always stay this late?" Katy asked, pausing by Rachel's desk. "Only when my spreadsheets misbehave," Rachael said, heart hammering. Katy laughed, a low, warm sound. "Well, maybe you should let someone supervise you." Rachael blinked. "Are you volunteering?" Katy tilted her head. "Maybe I am." The fluorescent lights buzzed, the office empty except for them. Rachael felt the floor tilt under her, like she'd stepped into a new gravitational field. Katy shifted her bag higher and started toward the elevator. "Walk me out," she asked, glancing back. Rachael grabbed her coat so fast she nearly tripped over the swivel chair. The elevator ride down was a pressure cooker of silence. Rachael kept her eyes fixed on the glowing floor numbers, willing them to change faster. Beside her, Katy leaned casually against the mirrored wall, arms folded, her reflection doubling the effect. "So," Katy said at last, her voice echoing slightly in the small space, "you've been holding out on me." Rachael blinked. "On you?" The poetry. The dangerous curves. The hidden stand-up comedian. "I've been working next to you for months, and I never knew." Heat rose to Rachel's ears. "That's because I'm very stealthy." Ninja-level stealth. Katy tilted her head, her dark hair falling across one cheek. "You're not as stealthy as you think." Rachel's mouth went dry. The elevator dinged, doors opening to the lobby. She followed Katy out, legs suddenly heavy. The air outside was cool, carrying the smell of rain on asphalt. They stepped onto the sidewalk, where the city buzzed with commuters and food carts. Katy stopped, turning toward her. "Confession," Katy said, slipping her hands into her pockets. "When you said what you said earlier, about my formatting." Rachael groaned into her palms. "Please, can we bury that phrase forever? With a headstone and flowers?" Katy laughed, brushing Rachel's hand down gently. "Listen. When you said it, I thought, finally." Rachael froze. "Finally. Finally, proof you like women." Katy's gaze softened. "Because I've been trying to figure you out for months." Every neuron in Rachel's brain fired at once. "Wait. You, what? You too?" Katy's smirk returned, small and devastating. "You really think you're the only one hiding a crush around here?" The sidewalk noise faded, replaced by the wild, giddy pounding in Rachel's chest. "So all this time, we've just been two idiots?" "Pretty much." Katy nudged her shoulder playfully. "Two idiots with terrible timing." Rachael laughed, dizzy with relief. "That actually feels kind of perfect." Katy glanced toward the corner cafe, its string lights glowing like a promise. "Want to fix our timing? Coffee. Now." Rachael hesitated for all of half a second. "Yes," she said, already moving with her. They walked side by side, shoulders brushing, and for the first time in months, Rachael felt like she wasn't carrying a secret anymore, she was walking straight into it. The cafe was nearly empty, a handful of students hunched over laptops and a barista with a nose ring humming along to the indie playlist. Katy chose a booth in the back, sliding in with the casual grace of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Rachael sat opposite, gripping her paper cup like it was both shield and lifeline. "So," Katy said, stirring her latte with a wooden stick, "how long have you been secretly pining?" Rachael nearly choked on her cappuccino. "Excuse me?" Katy's eyes glittered. "You heard me." Rachael sank lower in her seat. Define pining. Daydreaming. Staring too long in meetings. Imagining poetry about dangerous curves. Rachael set her cup down with exaggerated dignity. Maybe 6 months. Ish. But only casually. Like a recreational crush. Katy laughed, warm and unguarded. Recreational, huh? I've been on the Olympic training program. Rachel's jaw dropped. You've had a crush longer than me? Longer, Katy confirmed, sipping her latte. Since your first week, actually. You corrected the boss's spelling error in a presentation. I thought, wow, fearless. Rachael blinked. You fell for me, because I bullied PowerPoint? Katy shrugged. It was hot. Rachael buried her face in her hands. This cannot be real life. Katy leaned forward, her smile gentler now. It is, though. And you don't have to pretend anymore. The words landed like a door opening, one Rachael hadn't dared touch. Her chest felt lighter, her laugh breaking out before she could stop it. I'm terrible at this. I had a whole plan to never say anything ever and pine quietly until I died. That's bleak, Katy said, chuckling. It was a solid strategy. No. This, Katy gestured between them. This is better. Rachel's heart tripped over itself. The way Katy was looking at her, steady, open, like she already knew the ending to a story Rachael was just beginning to read, it was almost too much. The barista called out an order, and the spell loosened just enough for Rachael to exhale. She tapped her fingers on her cup. So what now? Do we, draw up a contract? Mutual crush officially acknowledged, effective immediately? Katy tilted her head. Or we could just go on a date. Rachael grinned, nerves and joy colliding. Yeah. Let's start there. Their date began with low-stakes banter over foam art. Rachael swore her cappuccino's blob resembled a potato, while Katy insisted hers looked like a dignified swan. But as the conversation stretched, the humor softened into something deeper. Katy rested her chin on her hand, eyes steady. So, tell me something real. Not office Rachael, not spreadsheets or formatting crimes. You. Rachael hesitated. The real her? That meant stepping out from behind sarcasm. Okay, she said slowly. I'm a chaos cook. No recipes. Just vibes. Last week I made pancakes with cinnamon, cardamom, and half a bottle of vanilla because the cap slipped. Katy laughed, delighted. Did they survive? They were either brilliant or a war crime. My roommate still undecided. That's real, Katy said, smiling like she'd just uncovered treasure. I like it. Your turn, Rachael challenged. Katy thought for a moment. I take long walks at night. No headphones, no distractions. Just me and the city. It's the only time I feel completely honest with myself. The candor in her tone tugged at Rachael's chest. She hadn't expected vulnerability tucked behind Katy's confident smirks. They lingered until closing time, trading small confessions like contraband. Rachael admitted she once cried over a badly written season finale. Katy confessed she secretly adored rom-coms, though she pretended otherwise. As they left, the night air wrapped cool around them. Street lamps spilled golden halos onto the sidewalk. Katy's hand brushed Rachael's, deliberately this time, and lingered. Rachael's breath caught. Their fingers threaded together, tentative but sure, as if both had been waiting for permission. Katy tilted her head, voice low. Still recreational? Rachael laughed softly, nerves fizzing into warmth. No. Competitive level. At least semi-pro. Good, Katy whispered, giving her hand a squeeze. They walked toward the train station, hands entwined, the city noise dimmed by the buzz of something new, something fragile, absurd, and utterly exhilarating. For once, Rachael didn't want to hide behind jokes. She wanted to see where this could go, one dangerously honest step at a time. The subway platform smelled faintly of oil and possibility. Rachael had never been more aware of her own hand than she was in that moment, warm inside Katy's, every nerve buzzing like it had discovered a new sense. They stood close, shoulder to shoulder, as the train rumbled into view. "So," Katy said, voice casual but her thumb drawing lazy circles on Rachael's palm, "what's the official label for this? Still truce? Or are we moving into advanced diplomacy?" Rachael snorted. "Feels more like a ceasefire. With fringe benefits." Katy's grin spread slow, wicked. "Benefits, huh? Bold strategy." Rachael flushed, fumbling. "I meant, like, coffee benefits. Conversation benefits. Not, okay, shutting up now." The train doors opened. They slipped inside, finding a corner near the pole. The car was half empty, just a few stragglers lost in their own worlds. Katy leaned against the wall, her bag slung over one shoulder, eyes fixed on Rachael like she was the only thing worth watching. "You're adorable when you panic," Katy said softly. Rachael groaned. "That's not a compliment. That's a warning sign." "No," Katy said, shaking her head. "It's definitely a compliment." Silence stretched, comfortable this time, filled with the hum of the train and the weight of something new between them. Rachael felt both exposed and invincible. Her stop was coming up too soon. She didn't want to let go, didn't want to break the spell. As the train slowed, she hesitated. "This is me." Katy looked at her, eyes searching. "Want me to walk you home?" Rachael's heart stuttered. "Yeah. I'd like that." They stepped off together, the city quieter here, street lamps casting pale circles on cracked pavement. Rachael stuffed her free hand in her pocket, nerves twisting. "So, is this our first date, or just a prologue?" Katy squeezed her hand, smiling. "Call it a cliffhanger." Rachael laughed, the sound spilling out into the night. She realized she wasn't just walking home, she was walking straight into something she'd been hoping for, even if she hadn't admitted it until now. Rachael's apartment was only a few blocks from the station, tucked into a row of aging brownstones with crooked iron railings and flower boxes that had given up on summer weeks ago. She unlocked the door, heart racing, then froze on the threshold. This was the moment. Invite Katy in? Risk the awkwardness? Or let the night end neatly, like a first chapter closed? Katy must have seen the battle on her face, because she tilted her head, softening her smirk into something gentler. "Relax. I'm not expecting anything. Just wanted to make sure you got home safe." Relief and disappointment tangled in Rachael's chest. She managed a wry smile. "You're very considerate for a formatting felon." Katy chuckled. "Good night, Rach." She turned to leave, and the ache hit Rachael sharp, like she was about to watch a balloon float away. Before she could think twice, words tumbled out, "Wait." Katy stopped. Rachael swallowed. "Do you want to come up? Just for tea? Or hot chocolate? Or, I don't know, whatever's in my cabinets that hasn't expired." Katy studied her for a heartbeat that felt like a century. Then she smiled, slow and certain. "Tea sounds nice." Inside, Rachael's apartment was a mix of cozy chaos, stacks of books doubling as furniture, a string of fairy lights dangling unevenly, a mug collection that could service a small army. She busied herself in the kitchen, rattling cupboards, trying not to look like someone spiraling into a panic attack over boiling water. Katy wandered to the bookshelf, tilting her head at the titles. "You have, like, 6 copies of the same novel." Rachael winced. "Different editions. Don't judge me." Katy grinned over her shoulder. "I wouldn't dream of it." When Rachael finally returned with 2 mismatched mugs, one labeled World's Okayest Cook, the other plastered with cartoon cats, Katy was curled up on the couch, looking perfectly at home. Rachael handed her the cat mug and sat down, careful to keep a respectable distance. Their knees still brushed. "This feels weirdly," Rachael searched for the word. "Domestic?" Katy offered. Rachael laughed. "Yeah. Like we've skipped a few steps." Katy sipped her tea, eyes gleaming. Or maybe we're just catching up. The fairy lights buzzed faintly, painting the room in soft gold. Rachel's nerves slowed to a hum, like background music instead of a fire alarm. She watched Katy blow on her tea, lips pursed just so, and had to look away before her brain short-circuited. So, Katy said, setting her mug on the coffee table, when exactly were you planning to tell me? That you liked me? Rachael groaned, covering her face with her hands. Never. The plan was die with my secrets intact. Terrible plan, Katy said matter-of-factly. Rachael peeked at her through her fingers. You have a better one? Clearly, Katy replied. Accidental but commentary. Worked like a charm. Rachael laughed so hard she nearly spilled tea on herself. You're never going to let me live that down, are you? Not a chance, Katy said, smug. Then, softer, but I'm glad you said it. I've been hoping you'd give yourself away somehow. I thought maybe I'd have to drop a hint, but you beat me to it. Rachael blinked. You were waiting for me to screw up? Not screw up, Katy said, leaning closer. Just slip. Be honest. Their knees pressed together now, not accidental, and Rachel's pulse kicked. She wanted to say something witty, to defuse the tension, but her mouth betrayed her again. I'm kind of terrified right now. Katy tilted her head. Why? Because, Rachael admitted, voice thin, you're here. On my couch. Drinking tea out of my dumb cat mug. And I've wanted this for months, and now it's real, and, what if I ruin it? Katy's expression softened into something that undid Rachael completely. She reached over, gently tugging Rachel's hand away from her face. Hey. You're not ruining anything. You're, finally letting me in. Silence pooled between them, warm instead of heavy. Rachel's heart thudded against her ribs, but she didn't look away. Katy smiled faintly. You can kiss me, you know. Rachel's brain flatlined. What? Katy laughed quietly. You heard me. And for once, Rachael didn't overthink it. She leaned in. Their lips met with a hesitancy that lasted all of 2 seconds. Then Katy shifted closer, her hand sliding to the back of Rachel's neck, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like both an explosion and a release. Rachael clung to the moment, Katy's mouth soft, her fingers warm, the faint taste of peppermint tea lingering between them. Every ounce of tension Rachael had been carrying since the first day they met dissolved, replaced by dizzy relief. When they finally pulled apart, Rachel's laugh spilled out, breathless. Wow. Okay. Definitely not recreational anymore. Katy rested her forehead against Rachel's, grinning. Told you. Olympic level. They stayed close, hands tangled, breaths mingling, as if neither wanted to risk breaking whatever magic had just sparked to life. For once, Rachael didn't feel the urge to hide behind a joke. She just wanted to look, really look, at Katy. You know what's wild? Katy murmured. All those months, I kept convincing myself you weren't into women. The way you played it so straight. No pun intended. Rachael groaned. I was trying so hard to keep it under wraps. I even practiced neutral expressions in the mirror. Katy smirked. And then you blew it over my butt. Don't phrase it like that. Rachael said, covering her face, though she was grinning. Katy tugged her hand down gently. I like that you blew it. I like that you're a mess sometimes. Makes you human. Rachael exhaled, something tight in her chest unspooling. You're really not going to run for the hills? Not a chance, Katy said simply. The quiet that followed was soft, companionable. Rachael leaned back against the couch, pulling Katy with her until they fit together like puzzle pieces. Katy traced absent circles on Rachel's arm. So, does this mean I finally get to call you my crush out loud? Rachel's cheeks hurt from smiling. Yeah. You can call me whatever you want. Katy kissed her again, slower this time, like a promise. Outside, the city kept moving, but inside Rachel's tiny apartment, time bent to their laughter, their breath, the sheer miracle of finally being seen. The night stretched, unhurried. They shifted sideways on the couch, mugs forgotten on the table, fairy lights flickering like a half-drunk constellation above them. Rachel's head rested on Katy's shoulder, the steady rise and fall of her breathing more grounding than any spreadsheet could ever be. "This feels surreal," Rachel admitted, voice muffled against Katy's sleeve. "Like any second, I'll wake up and realize I hallucinated you because of caffeine withdrawal." Katy chuckled, her thumb brushing Rachel's hand. "If you hallucinated me, I'd probably be taller. And maybe British." Rachel laughed into her shoulder. "Okay, fair. But you'd definitely still have the trousers." "Obviously." A quiet beat passed, filled with the hum of the city through the window. Then Katy said softly, "You know, I used to imagine this. Not the tea and cat mugs, exactly, but sitting with you. Close. Not having to hide it." Rachel pulled back just enough to see her face. The honesty in Katy's eyes knocked the wind out of her. "You imagined this?" "All the time," Katy admitted. "During meetings, on those late walks, even when you made terrible puns in the group chat." Rachel groaned. "I can't believe my bad humor made the cut." "Your bad humor sold me." Katy's grin turned crooked. "Don't you get it? I didn't fall for some perfectly polished version of you. I fell for this, the chaos cook, the butt commenter, the girl who thinks a blob of foam is a potato." Rachel blinked hard, trying not to combust. "You're kind of unfairly good at this." "At what?" "Making me feel wanted. Safe. Like maybe I don't have to keep my guard up all the time." Katy's voice softened. "You don't. Not with me." It hit Rachel then, the weight of months of careful silence lifting in a single evening. She leaned in, kissing Katy again, slower, deeper, like she could stitch the moment into permanence. When they pulled back, Katy whispered, "Still terrified?" Rachel smiled, brushing her nose against hers. "Yeah. But in the best way." By the time the clock struck midnight, their tea had gone cold, but neither of them cared. They were too busy learning the shape of this new honesty, letting the conversation wander through alleys they'd never dared explore before. Katy told stories about her childhood, growing up in a house full of brothers, learning to fight for the last pancake, how she never realized until college that she liked women. Rachel shared her own patchwork of secrets, how she'd written terrible teenage poetry about fictional heroines, how she'd been terrified to come out at work, how she still hadn't told her parents because the timing never felt right. "You don't have to rush it," Katy said, her tone steady, "no pressure. People will figure it out when they see us together anyway." Rachel's chest fluttered. "Us. Together." Two tiny words that felt monumental. She shifted so their legs tangled on the couch, smiling faintly. "You make it sound so easy." Katy shrugged, brushing her thumb across Rachel's knuckles. "It's not easy. It's just worth it." That line sat between them like a quiet vow. Eventually, Katy yawned, trying to hide it behind her hand. "I should probably head home before I fall asleep on your couch." "Or," Rachel said impulsively, "you could stay. I mean, not, like, stay. Just, the couch is yours. Or the bed, if you're not allergic to piles of unfolded laundry." Katy's smile curved, amused. "Are you inviting me for a sleepover, Rach?" Rachel buried her face in her hands. "Not the kind that sounds scandalous." Katy tugged her hands down, laughing. "Relax. I'd love to stay." They ended up in pajamas, Rachel's oversized Star Wars tee, Katy borrowing flannel bottoms that were 2 sizes too big. They brushed teeth side by side, bumping elbows like it was the most natural thing in the world. When they finally settled under the same blanket on the couch, facing each other, Katy whispered, "This is nice." Rachel nodded, sleep tugging at her edges. "Yeah. Like we've been doing this forever." Katy reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "Then let's keep doing it." Rachel fell asleep smiling, Katy's hand still warm against hers. Morning crept in slowly, through the slats of Rachel's blinds, painting stripes across the living room. She woke to the unfamiliar sensation of someone else's breathing synced with hers. For a heartbeat she panicked, then she turned her head and there was Katy, hair mussed, face soft with sleep, curled into the same blanket. The sight was enough to stop time. Rachael lay there, not daring to move, just marveling. Katy looked younger like this, less composed, her usual smirk replaced with something unguarded. Staring rude, Katy mumbled without opening her eyes. Rachael flushed. "You were asleep." "Doesn't mean I didn't notice." Katy cracked one eye open, smiling lazily. "Good morning." It hit Rachael square in the chest, the intimacy of those two words, said like they'd been saying them to each other forever. "Good morning," she echoed, voice small but sure. They shuffled upright eventually, laughing over bedhead and fighting for turns at the coffee maker. Rachael produced slightly burnt toast, Katy drowned it in jam and declared it edible anyway. The domesticity of it all, the clinking mugs, the smell of coffee, the fact that Katy was sitting barefoot at her kitchen table, felt surreal, like stepping into someone else's life. "This is dangerous," Rachael said, buttering a new slice of toast. Katy raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous how?" "I could get used to it." Katy reached across the table, brushing crumbs from Rachel's wrist. "Maybe that's the point." Silence lingered, tender and electric. For once, Rachael didn't fill it with jokes. She let it stretch, let herself feel the reality of it. After months of stolen glances and secret crushes, Katy was here. In her space. Choosing her. When the clock nudged toward 9, Katy sighed. "I should change before work or they'll know I did the walk of shame." Rachael nearly spat her coffee. This wasn't shameful. Katy grinned, kissing her cheek as she stood. "Exactly. Which is why I'm staying tonight too." Rachael sat frozen, mug halfway to her mouth, as Katy disappeared into the bedroom to grab her things. She whispered to the empty kitchen, "Did that just happen?" Her grin answered for her. At the office that morning, Rachael had the distinct sensation of carrying a neon sign above her head flashing she slept over. Every time someone glanced her way, she stiffened, convinced they could smell Katy's citrus perfume still clinging to her sweater. Katy, of course, was infuriatingly normal. She strolled in 10 minutes later, hair perfectly tamed, laptop under her arm, giving Rachael a sly little nod that no one else would notice. It felt like a secret handshake. During the morning meeting, Rachael tried desperately to focus on sales projections. But when Katy stretched across the table to pass her a stapled packet, their fingers brushed. Rachel's ears went nuclear red. Katy's smirk confirmed she'd noticed. At lunch, Rachael hid in the stairwell and texted the group chat. "Rachael, I am a corpse." "She's acting normal." "Maya, normal how?" "Rachael, like she didn't spend the night in my apartment." "Julia, did you too?" "Rachael, no. We slept. Literally. Like sleep." "Maya, cute. Domestic. Basically married." Rachael shoved her phone away, only to nearly collide with Katy on the landing. "Everything okay?" Katy asked, holding a salad container. "Totally fine," Rachael squeaked, her voice cracking like a teenager's. Katy's eyes softened. She lowered her voice. "Relax. No one knows. Unless you keep broadcasting with that guilty face." "I don't have a guilty face." "You do." Katy poked her cheek, grinning. "But it's adorable." Rachael groaned. "You're going to be the death of me." Katy leaned closer, so near that Rachael could see the flecks of gold in her irises. "If I were the death of you, you'd be smiling." She left Rachael stunned, disappearing into the break room like she hadn't just delivered a line worthy of a rom-com finale. Rachael pressed her back to the wall, pulse racing. Months of silence had cracked open into this, flirtation in stairwells, secret smiles in meetings, late-night tea, and mornings that felt like beginnings. For the first time, Rachael realized this wasn't just an accident. It was a story already unfolding, and she wanted every chapter. The weeks that followed blurred into a rhythm, coffee dates that stretched past midnight, whispered jokes in the office kitchen, evenings at Rachael's apartment where tea became code for stolen kisses on the couch. What had once been sharp-edged longing smoothed into comfort. They weren't hiding anymore, not from themselves at least. And slowly, they stopped hiding from everyone else. It happened one Friday at happy hour. Trevor made some dumb joke about work wives, pointing at Rachael and Katy like it was harmless banter. Rachael braced for panic, but Katy just slipped her arm through Rachael's and said, "Yeah, something like that." The look on Trevor's face was priceless. But more important was the rush of relief flooding Rachael's chest. She hadn't realized how heavy secrecy had been until Katy carried it away with a single grin. Later that night, back in Rachael's apartment, fairy lights glowing, Katy curled into her side. "You know what I love most?" she asked. "Your tragic sense of humor?" Rachael teased. Katy pinched her. "No. That I don't have to guess anymore. I don't have to wonder if you're looking at me for the same reasons I'm looking at you." Rachael brushed her fingers along Katy's jaw, marveling at how easy it felt to touch her now. "I was always looking." Katy kissed her then, slow, certain, the kind of kiss that closed a chapter and opened another. When they pulled back, Rachael laughed softly. "All this started because I couldn't keep my mouth shut." "Best mistake you ever made," Katy said. Rachael grinned. "Guess I'll just have to keep making it." And she did, in 100 little ways, comments and confessions, jokes and honesty, each one building a story they were both finally brave enough to write together. The accidental flirtation wasn't an accident anymore. It was theirs. The end. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to subscribe if you want to see more like this.